Nothing buck-wild happened in this stage, and it finished absurdly late, so this is going to have to be one take, minimal professionalism. The stage 21 TT from Padrón to Santiago de Compostela, 34 kilometers long, rolly terrain. It's going to take them nearly 50 minutes to do this time trial. A reminder of the GC standings going into the stage: Roglic with an unassailable 2 minute and 40 lead over Enric. The big question was, would Adam Yates be able to take over a minute on Jack Haig and leap onto the podium? And also Sepp Kuss, surely the 2.5 minute lead on David de la Cruz would be enough to maintain his 7th place on GC. But for other riders, it was mainly a sign of finishing their Vuelta or their first Grand Tour, like Simmons or Seb Berwick. And then there was Fabio Aru, his last ever stage, retiring, I think now, and obviously a former Vuelta España winner. But then it was time for the big boys to lead off, and Magnus Cort, he's won 3 stages at this Vuelta España, and this performance today makes me think he can almost go for GC at some World Tour stage races next year, which probably isn't the best way to use a man of his talents, but he rode an unbelievable time trial today, a rolly parcours that suits, I mean, it makes sense, right? On the road bike, on this sort of terrain, you'd be picking him for the stage, and he set a time of 44:16, the average about 45, 46 kilometers an hour, so it is a difficult parcours, not particularly technical, but that was over a minute quicker than Josef Černy's best time, and so he had to get out of the hot seat for Magnus Cort. Would he win his 4th stage? And he was actually pretty hilarious sitting in the Silla Caliente for most of this stage, actually. Now, another result that won't make headlines: Thymen Arensman doing about 40 seconds after Magnus Cort in this long TT. He's a GC prospect for the future. It's good to see, but the GC prospects of now, Primož Roglič were warming up, whilst David de la Cruz took off, and he would actually jump into 7th on GC, as Sepp Kuss lost 5 full minutes, I think over 5 minutes in this time trial. Gino made it his white jersey, and 5th on GC, pretty safe, unless he had an absolute shocker. But Egan Bernal was on really good form. This is one of his best TTs ever, but the real action was now Adam Yates against Jack Haig. Enric Mas also warming up, his 2nd safe, and faces I'd prefer not to see again. But Adam Yates went out really, really hard. He had a 22-second advantage, according to the ticker, on Haig in the first 7 minutes of his TT with 28 Ks to go. So if he continued like that, he'd obviously be taking the over a minute advantage on Haig. But the problem for him would be, could he keep that pace up for the entirety of this TT, as Roglic rolled off the ramp, the heavy favourite to win the stage, and obviously keep the red jersey for this stage, hitting the first intermediate time check a full 13 seconds ahead of Magnus Cort, although that was the part of the course that should suit Primož Roglič more, and he didn't actually extend that gap too much to Magnus Cort at all. Egan Bernal finishing a minute 35 after Cort, and a bit of a tricky finish line here, just about no one. The finish line was there, but then there's like a fake finish line 100 meters afterwards, which is very, very confusing and probably freaked out a few of the riders. But Jack Haig maintains his 3rd on GC. He stayed calm and collected. You hear him in the post-race interview. He knew Yates would go out hard because he had to, and that's the problem with Yates not taking more time yesterday. And Yates folded at the end of this TT, couldn't maintain the power he needed to beat Haig, and so Bahrain victorious win team's classification, a stage, Gino Mader in 5th, and the white jersey, and now Jack Haig after the Tour de France disappointment, after Landa, who was supposed to be their leader for this Vuelta, abandoning. Haig takes home 3rd on GC, 2 minutes 38 after Magnus Cort. For Enric Mas, it was mainly just getting through without mechanicals or having an absolute shocker with Yates and Haig pretty far behind him. And to be honest, he did a pretty good TT once again, Enric Mas. His TT is quite consistent, seems to be incrementally improving, but he had his 2-minute man, Primož Roglič, hunting him in the last 200 meters on this little rise. Patented Primož Roglič territory, and he may have closed down Gibbons yesterday and then not closed down Champoussin, but there's no gifts in time trials for Primož Roglič, and he rounds the corner sprinting ahead of Enric Mas. And this is emblematic of this whole Vuelta España. We've had close GC gaps. It's appeared closer than the Tour de France, but with this TT, it never was. And when you factor in the expected gains of Roglic in this TT, and then what actually happened, it was an incredibly dominant performance. 4 stage wins GC by nearly 5 minutes. Primož Roglič also after his Tour de France disappointment. The Jumbo-Visma squad were happy. I think Stefan Kruijswijk particularly impressed me. He had a very good Vuelta a España, I thought, supporting Primož Roglič, who takes his third Vuelta a España title. But the stage results first, 14 seconds ahead of Magnus Cort, who was also going for his fourth stage victory. Arensman third, Černý fourth, then Haig, Bernal sixth, then Grosschartner, Kruijswijk, Mas, and Izagirre. Then it was on to the podium celebrations and ceremony. Roglic in the traditional, I think, Galician garb, crossing himself with the shepherd's crook. But it's been a pretty good third week to this Vuelta a España. I will particularly remember Roglic and Bernal's 60-kilometer move, Lopez on Monteiro, and particularly Bahrain victorious tactical masterclass yesterday to get Jack Haig on the podium. Here's the final GC. Roglic first, Mas second, Haig third, then Yates, Mader, Bernal, De La Cruz, Kuss, Martin, and Grosschartner. Fabio Jakobsen wins the green jersey. Michael Storer, the King of the Mountains jersey for DSM. Australians on absolute fire at the moment. Get off us. And Gino Mader takes a well-deserved white jersey for Bahrain victorious, and himself, he was pretty much entirely on domestic duties the entirety of this Vuelta a España. Bahrain victorious also winning the team's classification. But here's what Roglic had to say, or a little bit of it, after the stage.
How much did you know the time gaps, and how much did you enjoy the course?
Yeah, it was hard. It's the last one, and after all this week, it was hard. But still, definitely, I knew how I'm on the way, and also still I enjoyed quite some support and crowd at the road, definitely.
Were you interested to know the gaps for the stage win and for the GC?
No, I try to focus just on the stage, on the day itself, that I do my best, and then you see what is also at the end.
Your overall victory is the biggest gap at La Vuelta in 24 years. How do you define, or how do you compare this one compared to your two previous wins?
It's unbelievable. It's crazy. Sometimes, let's say it like this, sometimes you win by a lot. Sometimes I also win by really a little. But yes, as long I think as you can win, it's super nice.
Only two riders before you made it three at La Vuelta. Do you realize that you are making history today?
Not really. Like I said again, I'm not focusing on numbers, statistics, and all these things. I just go day by day and try to do my best, enjoy it, and I'm honored to be at that place, definitely.
And you are welcome back for a fourth one.
Yeah, thank you.
Voilà.
But I hope you enjoyed my Vuelta recap videos. I'll have some more content next week, and the ladies Ceratizit Vuelta Challenge recap video tomorrow as well. But until then, ciao.